Hello and welcome everybody, my name is Severin if you don't know me, and if you do know me, thank you so much for having me back. It's a pleasure because today I'm talking about Saturn Return, a concept that I find really important. I still love it, and a lot of people have asked me to speak more about it and to share. And so I do hope that you find that information today useful, that you find it inspiring and helpful, and if you do so, please, any button you like helps to kind of feed the Google algorithm to say that this is not, a video like any others of the millions, billions that have been uploaded daily, but that actually is something that is useful and helpful. So please support, very much appreciated. So let's start with the topic of today, Saturn Return. I think Saturn Return is something that we all have to understand, and it doesn't really matter if you have already had it, if you're in it right now, or if you actually not have it yet. So, and also if you don't know what it means, that's exactly why I would like to explore it with you. So Saturn Return is probably something that most of people, if they know or don't know, in the beginning they're a little bit scared about it. I mean, I remember when I was 26 and I got my first reading, a birth chart reading, from a woman that later on became my first astrology teacher. She kind of told me what's coming with my Saturn Return, and I kind of was like understanding it with my mind. But then Saturn Return was hitting me, and I started to understand with my body, and it was a challenging, difficult experience. But when I now look back, now I'm 34, I'm looking back and saying, wow, that was so necessary. Like, I was so immature, like I didn't know, and that was such a moment of growth and learning in my life. So I'm very grateful for Saturn Return, and also as a concept. I'm constantly looking in my clients and trying to understand where is their Saturn Return, what was their lesson they have learned, because I realized that's something that everybody has to go through. Everybody has to learn something very essential through their Saturn Return. So the Saturn basically represents boundaries. So it's like our skin. So it's like we are getting pushed into hard work, into our body, through repetition and perseverance. We are getting forced into success. So success is not something that you are a genius, you have to have a lot of money and just a lot of luck and then you're becoming successful. Saturn is actually the creator of success. By perseverance, repetition and hard work, you are achieving. That's what Saturn is actually teaching us, and I didn't know that. I always thought I just have to find a good opportunity. Little did I know. And the other Saturn is representing wherever it is in your chart. It's kind of a big mountain that you have to learn to climb in order to reach self-mastery. And that's why it's such an important place in our chart that we have to understand on a personal level. And that's what I would like to do with you today. So here we have Saturn Return. And you kind of can understand that Saturn, if it would be here in your chart, right? Then just imagine wherever it sits when you're born, then it takes 29.5 years, so 29.5 years to come back to its place of origin. And that's what we call a Saturn Return. So it comes back to the place it is. Now, we have 12 zodiac signs. Here are 4, okay? So this is Scorpio, Saggitarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. So it is in every house, or in every sign, you could say, yeah? It stays for 2.5 years, roughly. So that means every 2.5 years it switches sign. And that's what I just explored on another video that you can check out, where Saturn just moved into Aquarius. So that means it's like a different shift of what we have to face, the mountain that we have to face on a collective level. And that's why we're also in between times. So we could say now that the people who have Saturn in their Capricorn, they're at the end of their Saturn Return. And people who have their Saturn in Aquarius, they're at the beginning of their Saturn Return. But hey, it's a little bit more complicated like that, because Saturn moved into Aquarius on the 22nd of March 2020. and will stay there until the 1st of July 2020. But then it will actually go backwards again into Capricorn. So that means you guys who have Saturn in Capricorn, you're not finished with your Saturn return. It's coming back and stays there from the 1st of July until the 17th of December 2020. So people will still finish their Saturn return in Capricorn. So you just have a little break and then it continues. And for the people who have Saturn in Aquarius, you just have a little glimpse what's coming with your Saturn return, but then you have a break until the 17th of December 2020, and that's when you really will start until March 2023. You will have your Saturn return in Aquarius. So I will explore with you in this video as well what that means. I have no time to go through all the signs, but I want to explore what the Saturn return was for the people who have Saturn in Scorpio, Saturn in Sagittarius, Saturn in Capricorn, and Saturn in Aquarius. If you don't know where your Saturn lies, you don't know what is your birth chart, then just go into the About page. In my description about me, you find my email. Send me an email and I for free send you your birth chart and tell you where your Saturn lies. If you want to have a birth chart reading and tell you what it means, then you have to pay me. So this is like what I would like to explore with you right now. But let's speak a little bit more about Saturn return, because Saturn return, basically Saturn means it's like time. Imagine like through time we are getting pushed, we're getting dense, and you're becoming, through hard work, you're becoming crystallized. And that's what Saturn return does. It's not painful in that sense that it's negative. It's more like it's an opportunity to grow up. So you could say until 27, so somehow it's like you are just filling your backpack with experiences. You're doing things you would not repeat, but they're very important that they are in your backpack. But then when you are turning 29 and a half, you could say already from 28 to 30, yeah, okay. So 29 and a half is the exact Saturn return, but from 28 to 30, even a bit later, that's when your Saturn return is happening. And this time, there's a moment of maturation. Like for me, I would say like, that's when I grew up. Like before I was just, you know, a young adolescent and I was just playing around with life. I kind of thought I can choose who I want to become, where I want to live, who I want to marry. And Saturn return is kind of there and saying, hey, who are you meant to be? I will tell you, rather than you coming up with your own interpretation. And Saturn is therefore lying in a place where we wouldn't dare to actually get in touch with. It's almost like that domain is kind of a uncomfortable domain. It's a place where we may be even a little bit afraid or uncomfortable. So if you are under 27, obviously you're not going in a domain that's uncomfortable, that you're a bit afraid of, and that you feel actually uncomfortable in. Obviously we would say, no, let's have a coffee, let's have fun, let's go party, let's get drunk, let's go travel. But then when the Saturn return comes, it's like it's hitting you and saying, like the million possibilities that you thought are possible are actually now reduced to that one purpose and that one alignment, who you are meant to be. And I'm telling you now what that means and what you have to work on, even if that's uncomfortable. Because if you're working through that pain, that wound, that's exactly where your light, your grace, your potential is entering. And that's something that we haven't really realized. Maybe we have realized it here, but until we're not facing that hard work, that repetition, that challenge, that perseverance, like we are not really maturing. And that's exactly what Saturn return represents. It's a moment to kind of being pushed into our dharma, into our faith, and really waking up through facing, through a physical, emotional and sensational experience. We're really getting grounded into the physical body. We are integrating the realization into our physical body, and therefore on a spiritual level you make some of the biggest progress in your life. And that's why I would say constantly, even though Saturn return is over, you constantly have to know what Saturn wants to teach you, where you have to go in willingly, because that is the biggest potential for growth. Of course, there's other planets, like Pluto or the nodes that are really important, but Saturn definitely for me is something I work daily with, and I find it very, very meaningful because I want to grow. I have this big urge for evolution. So with Saturn return, then it's basically just a question, can you face that event in your life with grace, acceptance and patience? or because you somehow feel like, why me? Why is that so difficult? Why is that so challenging? Like that you're trying to escape, that you're kind of trying to mentalize it, that you're kind of trying to run away. And that's where we would say in astrology, yes, you can run away. Like your free will is basically, no, I don't want to. But then that will come back. It like the challenges or the difficulties or the learning lessons will to come back with your second Saturn return. So you know now 29 and a half, so almost 30, so with 50, 59, 58, like that's when you have your second Saturn return, and that's when another topic is coming in. And that's normally like where, you know, my parents' generation or your parents, you know, or just when you're in that age, that's basically, have you integrated the lessons from the first Saturn return, and can you now like harvest them, you know, can you, or are you actually just a father or a worker, and that's what has been your meaning, and now that that's kind of coming to the end, where you're coming into retirement or children are out, you're having another lifetime crisis, you know, that's normally the Saturn return, but actually it is a real wake-up call. So that's kind of in a summary the Saturn return, and I hope I could shift, you know, your attitude to Saturn as a malefic or, you know, evil quality to a benevolent teacher, a mentor that's here to help you in your process to wake up. I have never said it's easy, I have never said it's comfortable, but hey, that's really what the wake-up call is. It's a little bit like giving birth. Like any woman who is going under anesthesia, I totally understand. It's a lot of pain. Like actually, it's like so much pain. Like I wouldn't want to be a woman and give child to a birth. Like I think it's amazing what every woman is doing. And I think Saturn return, it's a little bit of that experience. And I think lots of people that I know, everybody who has have it close, like they really remember it and has been a very significant time in their life. So if you haven't had it yet, I don't want to scare you. I just want to say this is a wonderful moment to actually even becoming more yourself. So right now what I would like to explore with you is what I have said before. Let's go to the 4 signs. So basically that's where Saturn is in right now, in Aquarius, has been before in Capricorn and will go back there, but before it has been in Sagittarius, and even before that it has been in Scorpio. So I'm not going through all the signs, you can have a reading with me if you want that, and I go into that, but basically I want to explore the themes. So basically if you have Saturn in Scorpio in your birth chart, then what's coming up, it's basically you will have, very likely you will have to face intense emotions. Like you will have to face anger, you know, or power issues are coming up, or addiction are coming up. Could even be like sexual pleasures, you know, addictions that you have to face and deal with, and kind of not necessarily live out, you know, that's exactly the Saturn return. It's not going after it, but basically making peace with that and actually acknowledging them, and therefore digesting and letting them go. You know, digesting means getting them out of your system in a constructive and not deconstructive way. It can also be that you lose a lot of money maybe, or that you have to invest a lot of money, because money is always a sense of security, and like in Scorpio it's like letting go, like really trusting and not trying to control constantly. So it's to soften the attitude or the controlling in general. So Saturn in Scorpio has definitely to do with these themes, and that's what I would say a little bit in Scorpio. So when we go into Sagittarius, then if you have Saturn in Sagittarius, it's very likely that you have quit your job, that you went traveling, that suddenly exploring the world and kind of building your own opinion, your own like idea of the world. Or it could even be that maybe you get very sick and you have to learn to actually connect with yourself and to travel within, you know, like maybe your whole belief system is shattering apart, like it's getting destroyed, and you have to kind of let go what you thought you think life is, and you have to wake up to your own terms, you know, and where you live and how you make money, and not just an ideal you have worked with. And that can also be that you have a deep experience through drugs, you know, like some medicine work with ayahuasca, mushrooms, peyote, like whatever it is, like a near-death experience that kind of alters or cracks your entire belief system, and you kind of suddenly like, whoa, I was so much in my head, I was so much somewhere else, and I had so many ideals and ideas about it, but I was never really here of watching just what is. So that's a little bit about the Saturn in Sagittarius. If you are one of the ones that are still having to finish their Saturn return in Capricorn, then in Capricorn it's very likely that you are afraid of not having reached enough, you know, that you are behind your potential, that you should have done more, and therefore it could be that you're becoming finally very productive and you're getting a lot of things done, maybe even ideas going into a business model and you're making money from it. But very likely it's even that you're facing basically your fears, you know, maybe that you even have a burnout because you're trying so hard to achieve and to accomplish, and that you're learning that you have an over-ambition, or you have a conflict with authorities because you're having a different ideal. And that makes you understand, you know, that sometimes like what you're trying, you're pushing too much. But actually in the same time you have valuable ideas that you have to let go of your fear of failure, of your fear of losing. And actually what's standing between you and your achievement is actually starting to do something and not taking failure personal and putting real work into it for what you believe into. So that's some of the things that I would assume for having Saturn in Capricorn. Then if you go for the sign in Aquarius, which the people have who are coming now and their Saturn return in Aquarius, is basically, if you have Saturn in Aquarius, it's like very likely that you might feel alienated from a community or, you know, a group, and you feel kind of not sure how you can contribute. So you have to learn during this time to in one way to help, to contribute and find a real connection and find really your tribe that you can share and where you feel respected and that you can give as well, but at the same time where you have to reconnect with yourself, where you have to kind of become true to what your vision is, not like, you know, the vision that the world needs, but much more what's alive in your heart. And therefore Aquarius is like that quirky personality, almost nerdy, that has to reconnect with themselves and therefore reconnect with their own vision through separation, through retreating, in order to figure out what's the voice of their heart, of their meaningful contribution that they have to give to the world, and therefore coming back to themselves in order from that place come back and share with community and groups and giving and sharing their progressive ideas. And that's what probably will be some of the difficulties, you know, when are you giving because you feel you want to have recognition, and when do you giving because you just feeling you're sharing your voice. I mean, YouTube is all about that, and I think some people are doing the one side and some are the other, and then the people who are watching have to decide what it is. So these are just the 4 signs in Saturn, like where Saturn could sit in, but we have 8 other signs where Saturn could sit in, and we have other themes. So, and then, I mean, you know, from here we could just go endless and I could talk for hours, but I really want, like always, I want to make short videos, condense the information, and there is more information in my webinars and in personal teachings that you can reach out and get more out of this wonderful, fascinating topic of astrology. So with this, I hope I shed some more light on the Saturn return. I hope you made friends with Saturn, and if you haven't had your Saturn return, I wish you have or will have a beautiful Saturn return. Take care, and thank you very much.